Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ML Day. My name is Jing Lai. I lead the Ads Quality org at Pinterest. So at Ads Quality, we build models and systems that decide how many ads to show, which ads to show, and where to show them, how much to charge. As you know, machine learning technology is heavily used in this domain. It's a fun and impactful space for a lot of machine learners. Today, I will take the privilege to moderate the discussions with some of our senior leaders in machine learning at Pinterest. Bala Krishna, Ling Len, Jia Jin, and Sam Eder. They will share with us the stories about themselves, their teams, and the success of using ML to grow our business. Now, let's welcome Bala, Ling, Jiajing, and Sam to the stage.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, first, Bala, Ling, Jiajing, and Sam, let's have a self-introduction. We'd love to know more about you, where your background, your interest, and your story with Pinterest.
Great. I'm Bala Krishnapuram. I lead engineering teams working on content and user understanding. I also lead the product analysis and data science teams for the core product. I joined Pinterest about 3 years back because I was excited by the opportunities for ML to really impact over 300 million users every month. I'm really glad I joined at that time because in the last 3 years, our user base has grown by over 50% to almost 450 million users a month nowadays. And the number of exciting technical projects has increased by a factor of more than 10. I also really enjoy working with brilliant but very friendly colleagues every day in a super collaborative environment. In this sense, our culture is really quite different from many other hyper competitive companies, and we really get a lot of stuff done because we collaborate really well together. Um, Over to you, Ling.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Ling. I lead the S ranking team in S quality. My team build ML models that predict user on-site and off-site signals. Um, for example, the probability for people to click on the ad, reping, convert, etc. And these scores are used in ads auction to optimize for pinner and advertiser experience. I joined Pinterest in June this year. Previously, I worked in Google Ads, Amazon Retail, and Coupon Ads. The reason I joined Pinterest is because of the strong machine learning communities in Pinterest, and I really want to be part of it. Over to you, Jiajing.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Jia Jing, and I currently lead the applied science team at Pinterest, which is the central research team under ATG that aims to solve business critical problem using state-of-art machine learning and AI technology. I joined Pinterest about 9 years ago. What attracted me to Pinterest is really the billions of beautiful human curated images. So back in the day, I was really into bird photography. So I actually registered a Pinterest account and started using it as a pinner. I was using it to find photography ideas and immediately got hooked up by all the great photo ideas that motivates me to go out and try them out. Then I realized that there can be so many impactful computer vision applications to be built on Pinterest. Since my grad school topic was on computer vision, so it was very natural for me to join Pinterest as the first computer vision scientist. And it's been really fun ride. Over the years, I worked on visual discovery and also built ads ranking systems here. And recently, I'm focusing on recommendation systems and representation ranking in general. And over to Sam.
Hi there. My name is Sam Eder. I lead our machine learning efforts in the ads measurement space. I've been at Pinterest for about 7 years. I got here through a startup acquisition. We were kind of a small startup in the ad tech / product recommendation space that got acquired by Pinterest. My answer is somewhat similar in terms of why I'm still here, as well as sort of somewhat similar to Bala's. I really appreciate the culture here. A lot of friendly people, a lot of very smart people as well. But to me, there are also a couple of other aspects that are important. One is I appreciate how Pinterest runs the business, both in terms of mission, but also in terms of the financial and the overall just business side of things. I've always liked the fact that it's kind of really well run. And especially in today's climate, that becomes more and more important. The other thing that keeps me here is sort of an ever-growing set of interesting problems. I've gotten to work on a lot of them throughout my stay here, and I keep finding new ones that really keep me here. Back to Jin.
Thank you for the introduction. Each of you has a long and exciting history about machine learning and technology. And each of your org requires a lot of substantial innovations in machine learning. Let's get deeper into your space. Maybe I start with Jiajing. So your team is a central research team. Can you share with us the top research focuses of your team at this moment, and how you manage to transfer the technology into business impact at scale?
Sure, yeah. So in applied science, the team mission is really to explore, develop, and apply state-of-art machine learning and AI technology to improve products across Pinterest. Which means, since our ping is so, contains text and visual applications, which means we tackle new challenges in representation learning, natural language processing, graph neural networks, and reinforcement learning, etc. And the recent advancement in generative model, as you heard from Chuck, also caught our attention. And regarding your second question, so we're not a pure research lab. So the way we work is to first identify opportunities in business where machine learning can be a game changer, innovate with a win or learn mindset, and work together with our partner teams to push the innovation to realization. One such example can be GraphSage, which is a learning pin embedding using graph neural algorithm. The motivation was really that back then we had a very powerful text and visual embedding that represents textual and visual aspects of a pin. However, what really differentiates Pinterest from other platforms is massive pinboard graph that we're sitting on top of it. So it has to be a way to leverage this graph, which motivated the work. So together with the researchers from Stanford, we got it to work the first version. So when we launched the first version of the Graph Sage in home feed ranking, the impact was very massive. And now Graph Sage is the default embedding to go for any machine learning application at Pinterest. And after so many years, we're happy that we're still not done digging the treasure here. And there are many similar stories for the work we published. And back to your question, Jing. In short, we innovate the things that really matters to Pinterest.
Thank you, Jiajing. Yeah, GraphSage is a very powerful signal leveraging the data, right? Unique data available at Pinterest platform, the human annotation at a big scale. And we are a customer of a lot of signals from Jiajing's team, including GraphSage and other sages. Okay, yeah. Next, Balat, you lead the content and user understanding space. It's quite a cool ML space. Can you tell us more about your team and share with us the most exciting or interesting challenges that your team has conquered, and most exciting projects that you have planned in the future?
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. I'll also expand it a little bit and cover some parts about personalization as well. Look, most companies in our industry optimize their recommender systems to maximize the likelihood that users will click on or view the piece of content that we recommend. However, Pinterest is different from other venues like TikTok or Facebook because pinners are not in a mode of leaning back passively to consume content like you would if you were watching Netflix. Instead, they're here to actively plan their life events, such as planning a wedding, helping my son with a science fair project, or planning a birthday party. For this reason, we have to understand users' offline goals and intent in their real life and help them complete that project faster and better online, on Pinterest, and other venues offsite. To achieve this, we are building a sophisticated ML system that optimizes not just the likelihood of the next click. Instead, we are optimizing the user journey over the next several weeks or months. To achieve this, we are building systems that infer their intent by watching their interactions with content on Pinterest and watching their interactions offline at partner websites. And we also actively ask the right questions to the right user at the right time to directly get their inputs from a smaller set of users and thus turn this into a supervised learning problem. We also then have to understand the content. We use one of the largest graph DNN models in the industry to understand content. Transformer based models have really improved our understanding of users as well. And lastly, we are experimenting with lots of cool ideas for optimizing and creating value over multiple time horizons, not just one click at a time. For example, we're experimenting with reinforcement learning and various other technologies for optimizing the user journey and not just giving credit to this pin click, but what's happening over the next several interactions after that. So, in short, lots of exciting work to do, and can't wait to get on.
Thank you, Bala. Yeah, so yeah, everything, all the technologies that you mentioned are quite exciting. Large scale models, transformer, understand users, understand contents, active learning, online learning, offline learning. Sounds very cool. Um, Lynn and Sam, could you share some insights from you?
Sure. My team is as ranking. Is probably the most ML heavy team in ASOC. Our ML models leverage architectures like a transformer, deep cross network, and powerful embeddings like Pinot and GraphSage, Judging mentioned, to achieve accurate prediction on the user engagement signals. In terms of our near future plan, I think it has two folds. On technical side, we are enable GPU serving for our ads ML model. This really opens the door for us to experiment with larger and deeper network. And along with this, we're also investing on feature enrichment, some from organic side and some from ads specific signals. This will bring the performance of our model to the next level. And another fold will be on our ad business side. We're also listening to the advertisers' need by adding new ad formats and new optimization types that helps them achieve their business goal. So my team is building models to support those use cases to help increase the ads demand for Pinterest. Over to you, Sam.
Sure. So on the ads measurement modeling side of things, one of our core goals is to maintain advertiser visibility into how well their campaigns are performing. That's becoming more and more important in a kind of much more privacy sensitive landscape. And as part of that, we are essentially being exposed to, over time, a really sort of diminishing set of labeled data. And so we're exploring techniques, machine learning techniques around that to see what we can do in terms of, for example, self-supervised techniques to augment that. The other thing that we're also having to deal with is a difference. So stepping back, right, privacy doesn't affect all user populations equally. As a consequence of that, we are seeing differences between our labeled data and our features in like the offline setting versus the online setting. And so we're trying techniques to mitigate label shift and covariate shift type problems. Back to Jin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, very nice insights. I have a lot more questions since we have your precious time with us. Lynn, similar to me, you joined Pinterest earlier this year. So, what is your perspective about Pinterest technology and the machine learning community?
Yes, sure. I'm happy to share my perspective about Pinterest. First, I think the ML engineers at Pinterest did a really good job at writing up and publishing their works. When I was actually preparing for my interview with Pinterest, I did my homework, right? I read a lot of papers and blog posts written by Pinterest ML engineers. What fascinated me was the authors are not like researchers, right? They're actually the engineers build the product for business. So I got to see how the state-of-art models and techniques are actually used in production system at Pinterest, and how that work improves Pinterest experience and delivered value to our advertisers. This really made me want to be part of the ML team at Pinterest. Second observation will be after I joined, I found there is a very strong ML community in the company. There are lots of cross team collaboration. For example, I work with Bala's team on testing content signals that could benefit ads model. I'm in meetings with Jiajing and Sam on a weekly basis. This kind of close collaboration is really helpful. We get the chance to knowledge sharing and brainstorming with experts from different domains. And this is the thing that gets me excited to work every day. Back to you, Jing.
Thank you, Lane. I can't agree more. Yeah, so although Pinterest is a mid-sized company, the machine learning, the research and development is pretty deep. And I'm very glad that the machine learning is applied in almost all of our business environments, the functions to really create the Pinterest experience and experience to our partners. And yeah, so Sam, yeah, another question from you, for you. As we know, and machine learning engineers can come from various backgrounds. Some are coming from research background, like statistics, math background, or some from engineering background. A lot of our machine learning engineers at Pinterest were backend engineers before, and some of them were in your team. So yeah, so with your observation, so what do you think are the key things that enables a backend engineer to become a successful ML practitioner? Any to-dos or not to-dos that you could share with us?
Sure. Like in general, I think there are many paths to get from being a backend engineer and getting into machine learning. I think a lot of them start definitely with the interest, and along with the interest, I mean, I think you should use whatever resources your company provides to learn more. Nowadays, there is a lot of great material online, but your company may also provide like in-person learning opportunities. Oftentimes, there are also reading groups around machine learning. At Pinterest, we have papers and teach each other about the latest innovation on the machine learning side. For me personally, I think it's also worth sharing. Like, I got into the space ultimately through the machine learning systems side. I spent a bunch of time working on our ads models, migrating those from one platform to another, did a lot of debugging, did a lot of looking into various pieces of feature engineering at the time. Also tuned performance quite a lot, both at inference time and during training. The other thing that I found throughout my career is that data is another really important aspect to this. And when I say data, what do I mean, right? Like it's like a lot of our systems produce enormous amounts of data. And even if you're working on the backend side, you might quite possibly be exposed to quite a lot of data. And a lot of machine learning, or a good chunk of the work, ultimately has to do with the data itself, right? Understanding the data, cleaning the data, and generally being able to analyze the data are sort of, I think, prerequisites to becoming a good machine learning engineer. And so if you have the opportunity to work on data-oriented problems, even if it's just here and there, I think you should take that. The other thing in terms of maybe kind of more practically on how to ultimately transition from a backend role into a machine learning role, I think generally speaking, I would recommend you work with your manager to identify opportunities within your company. I think there, in general, also machine learning teams oftentimes have responsibilities that kind of stretch into the back end of things. So there's often a chance to start more on the back end on a machine learning team, and then gradually, with the support of the team and the manager, transition more into a full-time machine learning role. Uh, if that path, for whatever reason, is not available to you, you could also consider going to a smaller company where oftentimes there's much more flexibility in terms of the job you do. And like switching between backend and machine learning may come kind of like maybe much easier. I will say, though, that there are definitely downsides to that path. One is I think you may not really be able to get the level of mentorship you would be able to get in a larger company. The scale may be smaller. You may also not see quite the same set of problems. And so the level of techniques you need to apply or can apply may not be there. Same thing goes with technology support. You may have to build a lot more of that yourself. Yeah, but it is a viable path, potentially. Back to Jim.
Thank you, Sam. Very nice suggestions. I'm gonna ask for more suggestions to the group here. Since all of you are very seasoned practitioners and leaders of machine learning, can you share some advice for inspiring ML leaders in the audience?
I can perhaps take a stab at it. Look, often I see engineers move in Brownian motion in their careers. We're working on one problem because it's the first problem that got assigned when we joined the company. And then in a few years, we got promoted or we could transfer to a different team. We sort of moving in whatever comes up along our careers. And then 10 years later, we wake up and ask, what am I doing? Why am I here? It's really important to take ownership of your career and develop a multi-step career plan. What does that mean? It starts with saying where do you want to go 3 years from now and what is the gap between now and there? What is the gap that you need to address? So, how do you grow in your career? How do you lay out a multi step career plan? How do you? So, in one word, the answer is impact. In the short term, people can do things like politics, but none of that will help you in the long term. Over the course of your career, you have to have bigger and bigger impact. So, how do you grow your impact? Impact on whom? On four different sets of stakeholders. First, customers, most important. Second, shareholders. Third, your team members. And fourth, society as a whole. How do you grow your impact on all of them? There are three areas of growth, three axes of growth that each of us can work on. We will tie them back to machine learning and talk about what can machine learning engineers do to grow along each of these three axes. The first axis is technical. You have bigger impact because you're technically better. Second axis is leadership. And third axis is understanding the product. What does each of this mean and how will ML engineers grow along each of these three axes? Technical is you're better able to deliver value, product impact, because you have a better understanding of the latest technology. You know what works, what doesn't work. You can understand and make the trade-offs between different alternatives. And trade-offs are not only about accuracy, they might be about runtime latency, they might be about cost, they might be about time to develop the first version. There are so many factors. This means you have to be hands-on, using the latest technology to solve problems on your team. This is not going to be entirely learned only because you read some books or attended a course. Being hands-on and building systems is the best way to learn how to grow your technical impact. But it is valuable to read and implement papers from peer companies, to read and understand, okay, what are the new things that TikTok has done in ByteDance in their user understanding that we need to think about as new ideas for our teams? What has Spotify and Netflix done recently? And what can we take away from that to think about how we are going to model differently in our teams? Second, we also have to understand trade-offs and when to use each type of technology. Work closely with senior engineers in your team and learn from their coaching and mentorship. Okay, that's the first axis, technical. Next axis, leadership. Leadership is a much abused term. It's not mean some fancy MBA learning. What it means is we are in a team sport, not an individual sport. It doesn't matter how many commits you have yourself. It doesn't matter how much code you have checked in. What matters at the end of the day is the whole team has got together and delivered a product. Is that product successful? Has it made a difference to pinners, our users? Has it made a difference to our business? That means, how do we help the whole team be successful apart from you just writing your own code? Lots of stuff you can do as an ML engineer. You can set up ML infra, you can set up automation, you can design process improvements. For example, improvements in how we run our A/B testing. You can improve design reviews and code reviews. You can coach and mentor junior engineers. In short, you can do a lot of things so that the whole team is more successful beyond just writing your own code. And there is very, very specific things that we can talk about in ML about how you can do each of these things as well. But I want to stay high level just for a moment before we drive into the details at a later point. Last, product. How deeply do you understand your users and your industry so that you can make great design decisions and trade-offs on your job? It's not only the job of the product manager. It's a misconception that only product managers have to understand users. No, every day we make design decisions. In our product that we build, our technology that we build, about what needs to scale, what is not going to have to scale, what needs to run faster, where is the levers available for improvement in the user experience that will translate back into improvements in ML, right? It's not always the case that the latest algorithm changes are going to make the biggest difference. In fact, the biggest difference often comes because you bring in completely new type of data, completely new type of user experience, and use that to drive back better ML algorithms, closing the loop. So thinking closely about that and indexing on impact from day one is the way in which you're going to have bigger and bigger success in your career. So my main takeaway from this is it's really valuable to take a holistic view of the question of how you grow your career and not overly index only on theoretical learning, although that is also a valuable component of a bigger picture.
Thank you, Bala. Very nice suggestions about growing impact and through understanding customers, understanding product, and making the whole team successful while being still hands-on and have the depth into technology. Very good suggestions. And Jiajing, Sam, and Ling, anything else to share?
I would not say advices, but rather two suggestions from my own experience. As ML leader, I think the first thing is the right balance between science depth and science breadth. Right? When we work on one domain, for example, it's either ads, recommendation system, computer vision, we definitely need to drill really deep to understand the uniqueness of the data distribution to find what is the most suitable model. However, on the other hand, fair knowledge about machine learning problems in other domains like NLP, computer vision, search and recommendation system is usually going to help you get a holistic view on the ML front to view problems using another pair of lenses and empower you to make good choices. Second point would be build good production and business intuition. As ML practitioners, our goal is bring business value using ML techniques. So talk to your product and business partners, understand their point of view, right? Where they're coming from when they're making decisions. This can really help us find the right problem to solve. And I think great ML leaders always have the combination of the great tech vision and good business judgment. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. What do you think, Jiajing?
Yeah, I completely agree with your suggestions. And I guess to add on that, I would say as a machine learning leader, right, it's really important to keep up with the industry. Like ML is such a fast evolving field, especially nowadays papers got published on an hourly basis on archive. 1 month in a hot field like generative modeling can mean like huge leaps in model performances. New ideas come up so quickly, and with that amount of data out there, the signal to noise ratio is really a problem. So as a leader of in machine learning, first you need to keep up the industry, and then also need to keep the critical thinking mindset, when reading these papers and discussing ideas. Otherwise, you'll just be overwhelmed, by the information out there. And another thing I want to echo, what Ling mentioned earlier, I think it's important for a leader in machine learning to build a community, whether it's, across teams or across even companies, right? There's a limitation in how much one team or even one company can achieve. They have their own problem, they have their own like domain, but we can learn from each other within the community and to make all the models better, right? And to provide better user experience from every app, which I think is a shared goal for all the folks here. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, I want to reinforce something that Bala and Ling said. I think ultimately we're here to solve problems. We're here to solve problems for a business. Machine learning is a great tool to solve a lot of problems. But I think one needs to also focus on leverage, right? Like sometimes the highest leverage part of the job may be working with partner teams on getting more data, right? As opposed to, for example, improving model architecture. I think one should kind of view the problem very holistically and figure out how do I best solve that problem with resources on my team, but also with resources on other teams in the way that works ultimately best for the business and leads to the best outcome, right? And that's not just a question of machine learning technology. That's sort of a question of having a very holistic understanding of the problem and finding the right point of leverage. Jin?
Yeah, thank you. I think every one of you share very nice insights. Now let's open up to the audience. What are the questions that we have here? Okay, let me going through it. Okay, quite a number of questions. Okay, number one, for someone who is new to the machine learning industry and is looking up to the roles, especially working closely with services that better people's life, what advice would you share? It's I think the question is for the content engineering team.
Yeah, essentially it is very similar to what we just talked about. So you have to work backwards from pinner experience. So what kinds of things should you do working in content engineering, in content understanding, in user understanding? Well, what kinds of new product experience do you want to create on the surface? I'm just giving up with like 5 examples that you can think up out of the box. One experience could be that you want to keep within Pinterest related content together and show a sort of a Netflix kind of a user experience. So instead of showing blending them all together, it's a completely different way of showing it together. Would it be useful? I have no way of knowing until you try a user experience, until you try a little A/B experiment. How do you go about doing something like this without building a full product? So you need to think about the roadmap of how will you test a concept like this without building the full product, and then how will you keep scaling the technology as you need to grow from a little POC with maybe a few hundred users and a hacked up user experience, and then when you get confidence that this product has product market fit, it resonates with users, then you grow the technology over a period of time to have the ability to serve 500 million users. So you need to think about what is the user experience that you want to achieve, then work backwards from the user experience to what is the technology for the first version that you're going to quickly prototype and quickly get something to understand whether or not this will resonate with users. Because on day one, you don't know what the product is going to be. Nobody knows what the right product is going to be. Then quickly iterate based on feedback from users. And then how are you going to build out something at scale that will be able to support this launching for hundreds of millions of users? So that is the journey that you need to think through. And each step of the journey, you need to have a plan. And that's the main thing that you need to think about as an example. And then they found out years later that this experience has proved to be a very costly experiment that has not worked out necessarily. I'm not saying knowledge graphs are not useful, but what are the things that make them successful when they were successful in certain use cases? And what were the experiences in these other companies that made them fail in other occasions? It's really important to learn from these, from the experience of others. So the first point that I said was think starting from the user experience and working backwards to the ML models that you need to build. The second point is understand so that you will be able to reduce the costs and improve the likelihood of success for your teams. Understand what's happening everywhere in the industry, in your industry, and bring that back. Those are, I think, the first 2 points that I will suggest.
Thank you, Bala. On the next question, here, how do you handle changing user interest in their journey? For example, user activities may switch from home decor to cooking perhaps after they finish their innovation project.
Yeah, maybe I can take this one since it's kind of relevant to what we recently have done. Again, yeah, great question. This is actually a very, very challenging problem, almost like the holy grail for any user modeling team out there, right? And we actually shared our approach in our recent paper in KDD as well as Rexas. So the way we tackle it is we try to decompose user interest along their journeys into like long-term interest as well as like short-term interest. Then we use divide and conquer strategy to model each component. For the long-term interest, we actually directly learn from the user log, like year-long user log, to directly learn their long-term interests that's more stable over time. And for short-term, we just leverage the real-time user action sequence and transformer model to capture their short-term intent. And in our experiment, this seems to be working pretty well. Like when we deploy it in organic and ads applications, we saw double-digit gains. And if you're interested, please check our paper. And happy to discuss how to learn how it's solved in your company as well.
Thank you, Jiajing. Next question. Once research and development is done, sometimes we land on a decision to deploy the solution. What's the process for testing in production, and how do the ML teams collaborate with the product-focused teams to deploy and ensure user behavior tracking gets tracked positively?
I can probably take a stab of that. Basically, I think this is similar to every other ML platforms. Basically, we do A/B testing. We ramp up small traffic and then dial it up. And how we ensure, like, the question is really like what kind of dimensions we track in terms of not just in terms of model performance, right? But really the impact to a lot of the business metrics and user experience. This can include like the top line, revenue improvement, or like pinner experience. Are we serving ads that are less relevant to our pinners? Are we hurting pinner engagement and experience? And also from ad side, we also track advertiser side metrics. Are we sacrificing small portion of the advertisers in favor of others, right? Those sort of dimensions are hotly debatable items. We go through our launch review process, and we include product and business in that discussion. So we get a holistic view on how this ML model is actually impacting the multiple dimensions, different dimensions in our platform.
Can I maybe add a sentence or two expanding the scope of the question a little bit? It's really important to think about how do we increase the velocity for our teams to iterate and test new ideas holistically. So we are absolutely right that we do have our A/B testing platform, but it's more than that. Early stages, we might want to first build out a signal test bed and have an offline evaluation infrastructure, and that will allow us to have an offline replay, so we can get a very accurate estimate of whether it's going to be successful or not, even before you go to A/B test. Not everything can be taken to A/B test in the first place. So how do you do things so that you can close the loop and quickly find out what's going to work or not work, and only the things that are likely to work, then you graduate to an A/B test, for example.
Thank you. Sam, you have something to add to there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we also have sometimes slightly different problems that are maybe not just user-facing, right? Where we do experimentation that's maybe more constrained to, say, the advertiser space. In those cases,
Okay, great. Maybe one last question. What are the main difference between solving problems that have a large amount of data versus those that do not? I can see
I mean,
some
it's
difference.
like
in
I
terms of
can
data
have
model.
like an initial stab at it, right? I think small amount of data. I think one tends to be a bit more constrained in terms of the modeling approaches one can take, as well as the feature sets, etc. And then if one wants to kind of start looking at more advanced modeling techniques, one sort of has to build up to that a lot of the time. There are ways kind of to create soft labels and things of that nature that help bootstrap that process. But ultimately, you're sort of still limited to some degree in terms of how complex you can make your solution. And maybe you shouldn't make the solution too complex, but sometimes certainly there's a desire to do so. Bala, do you want to?
I'll take a little more technical bit of an answer for that. When I have a small amount of data, then all my effort goes into how do I come up with the best models possible. So, for example, I will throw a lot of effort into Bayesian modeling, MCMC, or variational Bayes, and I'll come up with calculating the distributions perfectly. And so the effort is in how do I improve the model that can fit the small amount of data to get the best possible accuracy. When I have a large amount of data, then my effort is in a completely different place. How do I find a model that I can estimate even when I have a huge amount of data, which I cannot fit into one machine, where I have to do only online learning, only one pass through the data? So then the issue is less about focusing on niceties of Bayesian modeling and more about, can I get the maximum data and squeeze out the maximum results? So I'm not Bayesian when I have huge amounts of data. I find a frequentist approach works just as well, but simple counting, simple methods oftentimes end up doing much better, even though on paper they're not great at modeling and extracting the last bit of juice out of the amount of data that you have given. So
good answer. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're at the time. Let me wrap it up. Thank you very much, Bala, Jiajing, Sam, and Lin for sharing these insights, and thanks everyone for joining this panel. Now, yeah, we will get back to the to ML Day. The items in the agendas are, we're gonna have a short break, and then we're gonna have lightning talks moderated by Ashudeep. Go from there. Thanks again.